Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening to all of you who's watching us right now. Welcome to Breakthrough with me, Boris Joaquin. This is a live stream show, and this is brought to you by the Philstar Media Group and Breakthrough Leadership. This show aims to help you achieve significant breakthroughs in your business and your career as I interview leaders, influencers, and top tier executives all over the Philippines and around the world. Now, since this is our pilot episode, again, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Since this is our episode, we have good news for you. We would like to give you a free ebook, an ebook. It's entitled Achieving Authentic Success by Ron Jensen. And all you have to do is put a comment down in the section below and just tell us and just put the hashtag one breakthrough. So just right there, hashtag one breakthrough, and you'll be able to, one of our teammates will actually communicate with you and reply and give you the link so that you can download your free ebook from all of us. So we'd like to hear from you. Just make a comment down at the comment section below, and we'd like to also hear your question. Our topic for tonight actually is also a question. Our topic for tonight is all about the hybrid model of working. So the title of our episode for tonight is hybrid work working? So we also would like you to answer that question by answering or writing on the comment section below. So is it working for you guys? If you are working, when we say hybrid work, we're actually referring to whether nasa bahay ka nagwo-work, work from home, or you go to the office every now and then. So you split your week. So it's a combination. Your working arrangement is like that. So is it working for you right now? So we want your answer down below and put the hashtag one breakthrough, and our team will reply to you and give you the link so you can have that ebook that we promise on achieving authentic success. Again, good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Even before the pandemic, guys, I've observed that there's this shift towards the implementation of the hybrid work model. There are a lot of CEOs and HR practitioners who felt that there is a need to reimagine their organization as a physical workplace while recognizing that there is a need for agility for speed, for getting products out there, for getting it done, for serving customers better. This has led big businesses to understand that they need to adopt to a more flexible work arrangement. So what am I saying here? Even before the global health crisis or the pandemic, it simply accelerated the shift. It's always been there. It's always been talked about. So right now, the hybrid working has become a norm. As a matter of fact, by April 2021, several Philippine organizations have been transitioning to some form of hybrid arrangement, which includes a combination of days when employees work from home and days when they have to report to the office. And this has become a central model, especially for companies with knowledge workers. Of course, employees that are in the production line, frontline workers, this doesn't really apply to them. But it's a central model for a lot of companies with support groups, support departments, and knowledge workers. And most of the HR practitioners that I know are personally in favor of such arrangement. From our guests tonight, their group, the Investors in People, they have a community here in the Philippines, and they conducted a survey. And in that survey, among their community of corporations and business leaders, we have discovered that 84% are currently in a hybrid working arrangement in their organization, and 12%, even if they're not yet there, they're planning to do so, and a small 4% not at all. So the question that we have tonight as a point of discussion, how's it working so far, and how are the teams doing in terms of output and productivity, and how is it affecting company culture? So what we did is we invited a guest for tonight. She is the chairperson of the Investors in People in the Philippines. Her name is Miss Janet Webster. She has been in the Philippines for 22 years now, guys, and she's worked for Filipino organizations for nearly 2 decades. helping them improve their people management and employee well-being. So please welcome in the show Miss Janet Webster. Hi there,
Hi, Boris.
Janet. Well,
Good
it's really good to
evening.
have
Good
you.
evening. Thank you, Boris. Thank you very much for the invitation, and good evening to you and everybody.
Okay, Janet is experiencing a little bit of trouble with her internet, which is really interesting because I think that's one of our point of discussion later. But Janet, can I immediately jump into the question, which is the title of the episode as well? How is it working so far? The hybrid work arrangement, will it be good for the
Right,
organizations and the workers in the long run?
right. Will it be good? I think that's a great question to start with, Boris. I think it will. And the reason I say that I think it will is because when we surveyed our investors and people community,
Hmm.
I was surprised that actually over 90% of people said they expect hybrid working to be beneficial, to be good for the organization in the long term. But I'm not sure I was expecting that larger percentage. I think, like you said, we always have to remember that not everybody can actually go into a hybrid working arrangement, and it might not suit an organization, it might not suit the people. But for a lot, it will, I think, and 90% gives me sort of confirmation. The reason I think so is because we've kind of been through a trial of fire over the
Hmm.
last 2 years, and it's been extreme, and it's certainly the case that there's been a lot of pain, and not everybody has made it, but so many organizations have survived, and not only that, they've thrived, they've come out stronger. So I
Mm-hmm.
think all those worries that we used to have about, we can't let people work from home, they become unfounded now. There's no need for them anymore, because we've seen that working from home 100% of the time actually can work. It's different to hybrid working. I think we're on the brink of hybrid working now. But
Uh-huh.
if work from home can work, why not hybrid working, which is a step back from 100% work from home? So I think we've got an opportunity, and I think people can see 100% in the office worked, 100% work from home worked. Why can't we merge the two and make something even better? So I think there's a good chance it's going to work.
I like what you said. If it could work, then might as well take advantage of it. And I like what you said that we're almost at that experimenting phase. Nobody knows how to do it to begin with. We're all it's a trial and error for us. It's a third year towards from the pandemic, and we're all adjusting. We're all experimenting. You know what we did, Janet? We asked some managers and employees about what they think about the hybrid mode of working, and some of them you actually know. So what this is what they have to say. I want you to take a look at this, and I'll probably get your insights later. But for the rest of our viewers, take a listen to this video.
The reason the hybrid work setup works for me is because I get to cut down a lot on travel time, and I get to use that time to do other things, especially rest after a long day's work.
It works for us because it puts employees first and drives well-being in ways that enable our business and performance goals.
The hybrid model is working for me because I am a firm believer of output-based performance or productivity.
And now that we have pivoted to the hybrid work dynamics, I like the flexibility because it allows me to be productive in the comfort of my home. And when I need a change of environment, I will just report to work.
I think the effects of the hybrid setup depends on the nature of the profession. So for me as a virtual assistant, I still prefer to work from home entirely because I don't really need to go to an office to accomplish my task.
A hybrid work from office and home model is something that we have embraced to task us to navigate the new normal. This helps us achieve one of our highest priorities, the physical and mental well-being of our teammates.
The nature of our business necessitates face-to-face interaction with our customers and partners since we're in the toll road and construction industry. So people from our operations, it's difficult to have hybrid work since the work really is on site. But for our support group, yes, they can do their work remotely, but after 2 years in this pandemic, they're the ones who are reporting some difficulties in balancing their work and family life.
In 2021, last year, we've learned how to operate and survive the pandemic and embrace the concept of hybrid work models. While majority of our employees are still working from home, we opened our site if you felt safe and comfortable working in the office. It was testing the concept and accepting the fact that this is now how things will be.
It's very interesting how a lot of them are highly positive about being productive with the hybrid arrangement in working. What are your thoughts on that, Janet?
Well, that was the fear, wasn't it? Before the pandemic, there was, should we do work from home? Should we not? And there was so much fear about it. But what surprised me when we did the survey actually was, I think 50% said productivity didn't fall at all during the work from home, and 37%, if I remember my numbers correctly, said people were more productive when they were working from home. So I think actually that's been one of the things that has made us confident that we can do something different to what we were doing before, that we can be more flexible, and that people that we were just talking to there can actually maybe even choose where they're going to work on any given day. That would be a nice level of flexibility to get to. But yeah, I think the productivity has turned out not to be an issue. There's always the long term to think about. Whether 2 years is long enough to know for certain if it works forever is something to think about. But I think also there's the innovation, and productivity and innovation maybe go a little bit together. They're not the same thing, obviously. But innovation was even more positive. People were even more positive about how innovative their people were under the work from home situation. So yeah, I think productivity, innovation, the things that we were worried about, perhaps we didn't need to be so worried about. And this fire that we've been through, this pandemic, is showing us some positive things that actually we were concerned about and we didn't need to be.
Yeah, let's show those survey results that you just mentioned a while ago. So in the first question, you asked them about their productivity with the hybrid work, and 37%. Actually, can we move to the next one? On the productivity, what does it look like? 37.5% actually refers to people thinking that productivity is higher, and then 50% says it's the same as the pandemic, and then 12.5% says it's lower. You have that 12.50% saying that it's lower. I'm just curious, what do you think are the factors there? They think it's not productive enough, it's compromised in a way. What were the thoughts of the respondents there?
Yeah, we didn't actually push to say what was the reason behind that, but one of the challenges that came up was being able to monitor productivity. So I guess there may be some doubts, and I don't know about you, but I feel that long term, being 100% work from home is potentially less productive than a bit of a mix in a hybrid situation, because the likelihood of burnout, I guess, I think is maybe the issue. And you saw Mayen from Tollway saying after 2 years, people are actually wanting to come back to the office. And there was a little bit of research that said that people feel less productive. So it could be because all managers have been working from home as well as everyone else. It could be that they're thinking, I'm not sure that I'm as productive as I was or I could be if I was in a different environment. So it's not the same for everyone, obviously.
A while ago, we prematurely showed a chart, and it's actually referring to the challenges. From the survey that you did, what were the challenges that the executives and even the employees were identifying when it comes to the hybrid model?
Yeah, it was interesting because although 90% of the respondents, over 90%, said we think this is going to work long-term, hybrid working, they also, in a relatively short survey, and the average length of time to take it was 6 minutes, managed to give lots and lots of challenges as well. So I don't think anybody is naive about the difficulties that might arise. But about 20 challenges came up very, very quickly. And internet connectivity, well, many were mentioned several times, and internet connectivity was mentioned the most. And I think you mentioned there was a little bit of an issue with my internet connectivity tonight, Boris. So I hope it's not interfering too much with our conversation. But yeah, that was mentioned the most. Other things were, you have there was collaboration was mentioned more than once, as was employee engagement, which you would expect because of the challenges of maintaining that when people aren't together in one place. And monitoring work productivity, you got that there as well, was certainly something. I think technology skills came up as well for some organizations. Zoom fatigue definitely came up, and I think I would link that with, it's not the same thing, but maybe linked to burnout, which I think became a bit of a byword for 2021. I'm going to add, because it wasn't mentioned in our community, but I'm going to add complexity, because I think that hybrid working is going to bring complexities that we haven't necessarily completely, can't say thoroughly, completely thought through. And there was one or two interesting things, like how are we going, and this is linked to the complexity, I think, how are we going to train people who would normally shadow their workmates if we're in a new job or a new role, if we've got a more complex work arrangement. And there was one comment, and I'm not quite sure whether how to read this exactly, but the comment was, we need to get over the perception that work from home is a vacation. And I'm not sure whether that was like the person working from home is thinking it's a vacation, or their manager thinks they think it's a vacation, or the people who aren't working from home think the people that are working from home are on vacation. So there are challenges, and I think there's lots of work to be done to get over them. But because leaders and managers have been working from home as well, they've got a good idea of the challenges. And I think there's challenges that people have, and there's challenges that organizations have. And there's a period of adjustment. And that was one of the comments actually from our investors and people community, that we're in a period of adjustment now, and it's a change, and you have to lead, manage change in the same way as all the other changes. But we can overcome them, I'm sure, with this positive view that you've just shown from people who like working from home, from HR people who think it's going to work. I think if we can collectively share the problem solving, I think it's going to work. We just have to be aware that it's not all going to be completely plain sailing, I think.
Yeah, you know what I like about the things that you identified. Well, to begin with, we can't do anything about the internet connection. Well, whoever's going to win as the next president, a shout out to you, ma'am or sir. Please do something about the internet, or I don't know, maybe it's NTC or the telcos out there. That seems to be a major thing. I read your survey. A lot of people actually mentioned that, but a big bulk of those comments on engagement, collaboration, boils down to communicating with one another, right? Something that we lose when we don't do things in person. And those are things that we can adjust to. Of course, we're all trying to figure it out at the moment, but there's the last thing that you mentioned, Janet, that you mentioned about whether work from home is like taking a vacation. It's almost like a paranoid thinking that how do I monitor productivity now? So, which leads me to ask, is it a concern that people think that they need to monitor, or is it a concern on the other end of the spectrum where workers feel that I don't have any boundaries anymore? And the reason I'm asking that is because one of the recent news that came out is the Senate bill on workers rest, and you probably heard about this. And if this come to pass, if it's something that's implemented, It will soon prohibit employers from texting, calling, and emailing outside of the working hours. So there is that concern about boundaries. While productivity might be promising, people might be concerned that, well, productivity is high because you do more work when you go at home, when you do it at home, right?
Maybe it's just an interesting phenomena, really. I think, but on the Senate bill, in well-being is a big issue. I think you mentioned earlier, Boris, and organizations have become very aware of it. And maybe that's why we've got the Senate bill about not texting, not messaging, not calling people outside their normal working hours. And I, when I think about this, I think I'm in two minds, because a reasonable manager or a reasonable leader doesn't make
Mhm.
unreasonable demands.
Good
In
point.
our community, I would say, one of the essences of investors in people is that you care for people, and that's a way for caring for your organization, because your people are the organization. And that involves respecting the boundaries between work and life, or understanding that people have lives outside work. But I guess my two minds of it are, well, one would be the ideal situation is that senior leaders are very clear about the expectations of everyone in the organization, that you don't make unreasonable demands on people's time, and you recognize their need for rest and relaxation and other things that they have in their lives, and you make that very clear so that it helps to set the culture. But
Mhm.
if we need something that deals with organizations that may go beyond those bounds of reasonableism, well, reasonableness, I think is the word, then we need it. And I know some other countries have actually got similar kinds of rules. It's just a shame that we need the rule in a way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I hear you. I hear you. I love what you're saying. It's almost like you're saying that, okay, people are concerned about productivity, but they may not necessarily be, they shouldn't be concerned about that as much as they should be concerned about people. Because when you're concerned about people and you care about them, and this brings me to the topic of well being. By the way, guys, if you're watching right now and you have a question for Janet, I only have a few minutes with her. So maybe this is a good time to write it on the chat box, and we have a good gift for you if you do comment down below. You get a free book entitled Achieving Authentic Success from our good friend Janet Ron Jensen. But going back to what I was saying a while ago, so that brings me to the topic of well-being. How much of your the organizations that you're serving is giving emphasis or focus on this? So are there best practices that you can share to all of us on how we could give focus more on people rather on productivity, because productivity seems to follow if we do that.
Yeah, no, I agree, Boris. I think, yeah, I think, yeah, we are a bit obsessed with monitoring productivity, but I think the way I was reading it was more just making sure that you were on track, and knowing where everything was when people are not there, just for you to say, hi, how are you, and how are you doing right now. You have to actually get onto Zoom or Teams or whatever it is to do that checking out. So it's a little bit more, it takes a little bit more effort to do the checking where everyone is. I'd like to think it's so that you can offer support, rather than, you're not trusting people to do what they're supposed to be doing, which I don't think we need to be thinking. But when it comes to, yeah, so obviously respecting the boundaries is really, really key. And I would expect all organizations to do that, really. I think when it comes to well-being, it's going to be really important as we do this transition that we take into account our people. So we don't just look at the jobs. We don't just say, okay, that job can work 100% from home, that job can't. We actually look at the people doing the job at least as much as we look at the job itself, and their well-being. And somebody's a complete extrovert, hates being away from their work colleagues, don't make them stay away. Like the person who said, I want to have a choice to go to the office if I want or not. Maybe that's the ultimate we can go to, which would be really good. But ask people. I mean, Dexcom, for example, started their whole look at how we're going to work in the future with, well, what do
Mhm.
people want and how do they see it and what do they think? I think we all should be doing that. We all should be getting a good understanding of what people want and what works for them, so that we can build that into the new situation. And we need to be trying. We need to be willing to try. I think that's one of the key things. But definitely in the whole mix of it, we need to put well-being near the top of the list. And lots of organizations have taskers who we saw Dan from Taskers earlier, and Bounty Agro Ventures, which was to go. Companies like this have been really seriously looking at well-being during the pandemic, especially the psychological and social well-being of their people, and doing something about it.
So what I'm hearing from you, and those are wonderful best practices case studies from Task Us and Bounty, Bounty Chicken. You did mention that it's really good to touch base with your employees, to communicate and dialogue with them on a regular basis, to find out what's going on with them, and maybe that's really is a good start before we even launch into a hybrid program altogether. Let's find out what would work with them and what's a good compromise from what the company would like to allow.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should have been very closely communicating with everybody all the way through this, and I think good organizations have. And I mean, I'm thinking of 3M as well, who we saw Suki earlier. The degree of social interaction that they managed to maintain when everybody 100% is working from home was amazing.
And that's the main thing, right? Social interaction, and that's what we're losing when we do remote working or virtual. When we use virtual platforms, so we just need to be creative and find ways to actually make it happen still. And we know it wouldn't be the same, but still, we want to make it work. Janet, I'm going to deviate for a while because some of the questions that are coming in on the chat box is related to my next question, actually, which is about the workers themselves. And you mentioned this a while ago. What are the new skills do you think we should have in order to make us more agile and adapt better with the new normal, or actually what people now know, the way things are going, the way things are right now with the work that we do?
Right. Yeah. At the risk of sounding obvious, IT skills or technology skills are critical, and I think whatever age we are, we need to be. I don't believe in this. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I think we can. It's lifelong learning, and that's and so we all need to get on board with connectivity and ourselves individually, not the hardware of it, but being able to use the technology to collaborate. Then we need to be able to collaborate, and we need to be a bit more proactive with collaboration and being mindful. If I'm working in the office, but half of my team is working somewhere else today, how do I make sure that we're all working together and we're all getting the same level of attention and support? And we're not discriminating unfairly or unintentionally, really. So that collaboration of everybody, whether it's people or managers, I think it's being aware of your colleagues and making that extra effort with the collaboration. Not that it wasn't important before, it's just that extra effort you need to make. And then being flexible, because I think, again, we need both employers and employees. We need to strike this happy medium at the risk of, quips about cheerful clairvoyance, but we need to strike a happy medium so that we don't all insist on one thing all the time, because we need to compromise. And we need the flexibility, but we need some consistency as well. So I've heard that this argument of, they call it suits versus pajamas. So pajamas obviously working from home, and suits working in the office. And I really hope it doesn't turn into a tug of war and actually becomes an integrated collaborative process, so that sometimes we wear a suit and sometimes we wear pajamas, and that's okay. But there's a leader
you can wear both. I can wear my suit on top and my pajamas down under. So in the Philippines, just short pants, actually. Right.
You get the idea. But there was a leader that you making me think of, who used to say, well, probably still does say freedom with responsibility. And I think
Mm,
that's the skill that we need, or the principle in a way that we all need to take on board and subscribe to and say, okay, I love this extra freedom, but I've got to use it responsibly, whether I'm an employer or a leader or a manager or a person working in an organization. And so it's those and learning. So IT, learning, collaboration, and being flexible. There's probably more, Boris, but
I
those are the
love
ones that
it.
come.
Yeah, guys, I hope you took note of those. Those are very important uh, areas to improve on: flexibility, consistency, mindfulness. And I like what you said about freedom with responsibility. And I guess it goes in cycle, right? If you care for people, if you care for their well-being, automatically people become accountable as a process. I was trying to remember Patrick Lencioni's um, elements of a dynamic team, and that reminds me of how people can really trust you altogether. Janet, I wish we had more time, but actually I'm now being told I need to wrap it up. One thing that we want to do in the show is always say that um, we want our guests to actually identify one breakthrough insight that you realize that you want our viewers to actually take away from today. What would
Right.
that be?
Right. Well, I think this has given me the chance to have a bit of a think about where we are here, and I think to remember that we're at the beginning, pretty much, of a global social experiment with how we work in the future, and there's going to be challenges for sure, and probably many more than we've seen, but it is an opportunity for us to improve things, to make working lives better. And if we can do that, that's wonderful. If we can get that right by the end of the year, how good will that be?
Very well said, Janet. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us in the episode of our show.
Thank you, Boris.
All right. Now, I'm sorry we didn't have more time, but like, for example, there's this wonderful question that Dylan Wilk actually asked. He said that we found out that on the whole, hybrid has worked for many people in our company, but there are also some who are most definitely dropped significantly in productivity. So this means to vary from person it varies from person to person. I agree with you, Dylan. What are some of the tools and ideas that you have to help those who seem to not thrive in this setup? Well, needless to say, Dylan, and I'm going to end our show by answering that question as well. Needless to say, I think the hybrid friction isn't over, with employees still convincing their bosses to let them choose to where to work last year, 2021. This year, I believe that the focus is how do we make it work? How do we make it work? And just like what you said, it varies from one person to another. So what Janet was saying a while ago is we need to have that conversation with our people to find out what would work for them, and to have that middle ground and compromise, because at the end of the day we want to care for people. We want to understand and deliver their and care for their well-being, because at the end of the day that delivers productivity and high performance. We also noted, and Janet mentioned this, that workers must learn new skills that will help them to be agile, and I hope you took note of that. Not just to be agile, but to also adopt in the now normal, in the new way of doing things. But on the other hand, business leaders, and this probably is something that you could relate to as well. Business leaders, on the other hand, must create hybrid workplaces that ensure efficiency and productivity, both in person and virtual, but at the same time, try to nurture organizational culture that will help care and retain people over the years. And Janet mentioned some specific examples from some companies, and I'm willing to answer some of the things, give you some examples as I reply to your comment after the show. But thank you everybody for joining us today. Indeed, it's still an ongoing challenge. Janet mentioned a while ago, it's probably the great experiment that we're all having this 2022, this year. But we do hope that you and your teams nonetheless will achieve breakthrough this 2022. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless everyone.